Hey all, let's go ahead and make some music. I didn't get around to making any music yesterday, and so I've just now loaded up the current version of my XY template. Just one second here, my cat's trying to get into a dresser drawer. I'll be right back. She's allowed to do that, but she was about to jump way further than she really can. How about this one, girl? All right, and we're back. So the last thing I was thinking about before I started the stream in terms of what to change with my template, I right now have 4 kicks, which is cool, but I'm so used to having F be the kick and G be the snare that I don't think I'm going to be able to sustain this. So I think I'm going to have to edit that part of my template at least. And I also think it might be more helpful to just pick maybe a couple kicks, I don't know, but have lots of snare and clap options, because right now I'm sort of lacking that in my template. So right now this is the drum brute, drum brute impact template, and then this one is my acoustic. This is not my acoustic template. Why is it not? Oh, this is my acoustic template. Right, there we go. I just forgot I had all those envelope things on it. But I don't know. I guess I don't really want to spend much time editing this template right now, so let's just save it. I haven't really set this as a template yet because I want to be able to freely edit it. And then let's save it as, I don't know, stream or something. All right, so let's see, what do I even feel like working with today? I think first of all, I'm gonna put it on in the multi-sampler engine. Hey, thanks for watching. Let's see, what sort of stuff do I want to... One kind of cool thing I had done before was using some one thing I really like when I'm able to do it is I like when I'm able to get it so that the drums are resonant enough that the lo-fi effect starts to give us some different textures and stuff, some unexpected things that ideally sound like people are kind of talking, for lack of a better term. So, no, not for lack of a better term. I want it to mimic human speech. Let's make this track kind of rhythmic. That's sort of what I'm starting to learn is actually the key, is to also make some edits to the effects patterns and then keep those moving. didn't mean to do that. Oh, that's the other hilarious thing about my current templates, is that they all start you on scene 2, and I keep forgetting to edit that in every iteration of them. So I'll do all the changes I want, save it, change it to a template, make it a default, and then go to make a song and I'm on scene 2. It's just kind of funny. Yeah, let's just put it same spot over there. And now let's turn on some key tracking here. Dang, that sounds exactly how I wanted it to. I really wasn't expecting that though, so I'm kind of caught off guard. Let's also send it to the tape track just because it's already glitchy, so might as well lean into that, right? And I'll just go with my go-to trick, which is having the LFO going on parameter 3 negatively and very slowly. So it's going to be faster and faster. Is it possible to make your own template? Yeah, absolutely. I've got that enabled right now. I can do walkthroughs of that. It only became possible in one of the more recent firmware updates, but it has been super helpful. And so I'll just go on a little tangent here, which is that they were letting me, and still let me, beta test firmware updates, but it eventually got really complicated, and it's part of why it became annoying to make videos, because I didn't want to keep having to roll back the firmware. And so now I'm just back on the public firmware. So everything you see here is totally possible, and that includes making and loading templates. So pretty cool. And when you go over to the templates folder, if you select one, you can press make default. So right now, I wonder if, because I keep wanting to make that the default. Whatever. I wonder why it reverted. Huh. Anyway. This is getting a bit further from what I was thinking. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, so let's bring this back down a bit. Okay, so then let's make a new pattern for the lo-fi. Oh, there's a question. Does my XY sometimes skip a step while browsing the sample content with a second encoder from the left? Yeah, things skip over all the time. I think that they have some knob acceleration going on, and it's not always perfect. That's my experience, at least, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Yeah, let's bring this back to... Let's make this way too intense. Courtesy of the ladder filter. So right now I'm sequencing the lo-fi track. Can I not copy the step in this? There's a note on it? Okay. Done. I just want to make it even part. I almost think I can make it even. There we go. That's more. And so right now I'm only working with a sampled acoustic drum track, acoustic drum kit, that's only playing, I guess it's playing a full pattern, but then it's sending most of its signal to the lo-fi track, which is one of the effects tracks, and then I'm sequencing the effects track. This note was just to make it so I could copy a step, and also that note, that'll help me though also remember that there are parameter changes right there. Sometimes I'll try to do that and keep a memory of like almost view these as presets, so that way it's just easier for me to copy and paste different effects different effects parameter locks. Okay, so let's introduce the drum brute track here. Yeah, that's not good. I'll probably abandon that one for now then. heard a crackling. Oh no, that means that. Let me turn off the air conditioning. All right. I'm getting confused a lot by this tape track, so I'm just going to go ahead and actually just delete that pattern. Going to make velocity, target, and modify a little bit of the size of the filter envelope. Okay, so now what am I making here? I don't even know. Open to suggestions too. Let's just clear that for now. Oh right, the other part of this template. Oh wait, no, right. The melodic is back to normal now. All right, let's see. Do we want to use field stuff? Do we want to use vinyl stuff? Those are pretty, or AI stuff. I don't want to use AI right now. By AI I mean sampled AI ads. Like AI slop from Reddit. Let's go. Let's start off with a spoken sample I remember from this.
Something came down with a stick.
Actually, I'll just switch to the regular sampler. Oops, that's the regular sampler engine here. And then let's put that.
Something came down with a stickling crash.
I just liked the rhythm of this.
Something came down with a stickling crash on the back of my Something came down with a stickling. Something came down with a stickling crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black and crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black and crash on the back of my head. Something came down with a stickling crash on the back of my head, and Something came down with a stickling crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a stickling crash on the back. Something came down with a stickling crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through. Something came.
All right, so let's see. There's some questions here. When you slowly browse the factory projects with the second encoder, it skipped a step every time. Oh, this reminds me. Okay, this is going to sound like messed up timing. No, I'm answering these questions, but I just remembered I wanted to enable like a little super chat goal thingy. I'll still answer questions no matter what, but I just wanted to be like, you know, pass around the tip bucket or whatever. Okay, and zero pressure once again. But that reminds me. But okay, so the question is, cool. All right, so anyway, the question here is, when you slowly browse the factory preset or factory projects with the second encoder, it skips a step every time. Oh, you mean like the first? Yes. I believe that's by design, and that's what I mean by the encoder acceleration. I think that's just so that way if you randomly flipped one of these and then it's stuck between two different steps, if you bump it while you're playing or if it just kind of slides into place, it shouldn't change that parameter. So I think it's kind of a protective mechanism. That's at least how I view it. Because if I just perfectly dialed in the start point of this and then, you know, left the encoder just slightly off, if that first rotation always caused that, I think that you would end up with some issues there. I think it's also to protect. I don't know. I think there's several reasons, but I think that one's kind of by design. So yes, I do get the same experience. The next question is, let's say on scene 1 on track 3, I put in a synth, and on scene 2 on track 3, I change it to a drum track. I think that with the most recent updates, it's gotten pretty good at being able to do that. I've been pushing it a lot more. It does sometimes drop that first note, especially if you're doing something really, it's like, I don't want to call my own tactic stupid here, but sometimes I'll be like, let me play this whole guitar thing. Let's push it to that limit in a second though. But
something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through.
Actually, I just realized...
something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black and bottomless infinity. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black and... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black. Something came down with a sickening... Okay, so this is actually a pretty good example because... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black. Something came down with a sickening... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back. Something came down with a... Something came down with a sickening... Something came down with a... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling through black. Something came down with a... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself falling. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a sickening crash. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself.
All right, so just as an example then, on that first track, let's put something on track 4. Let's do another drum track. Let's do one that's a mixture of electronic and acoustic samples. Oh wait, let's make it play on the first time so that we were actually testing this. Boy, that made it seem like I was just trying to give them an excuse. So let's cue up scene 2.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself.
I guess those were
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my
two drum tracks I'm using as an example there. With synths, it'll be even like smoother. Let's put... Man, I'm really boring with the bass that I make, but I enjoy it. Now we're going to put it to its test here, see what happens. Oh, thanks. I'm glad to hear that you learn a lot from these. I always feel like I'm just messing around and not really explaining any of the important stuff, but I'm really, really glad to hear that people find it valuable.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself.
So at least right now it's pretty seamless transitioning between two drum tracks that have different samples loaded up on them and then a synth engine when we're having them play them all in a row with like different samples triggering on the very first one. So let's hear what it sounds like actually if we loop it. So I'm wondering how it goes from 3 back to 1. Actually, 3 to 2 would be interesting.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself. Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself...
Only go the first time.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself...
Okay, so that seemed pretty smooth to me. One thing that can get you in a little bit of trouble is if you're recording it in, and then you accidentally have like this step slightly early, that can mess it up, because then technically it'll be correct in not playing that trigger on this step, because it will have still been playing the previous pattern before that, if that makes any sense. Like, we've moved it back into the previous pattern, so it won't play that until the next playthrough. So sometimes that can look like a glitch when it actually isn't. Is it on time now? Yeah, there we go. Cool. Alright, so... what other weird thing should we do? Should we... You know, this has no construction sounds in it, and that is just a tragedy in my mind. Because I was sitting outside today and all I hear are construction sounds, so might as well, right? This one has a bit of everything, so actually it could be interesting to... But then I think that what I might have this do is, what if we... Well, let's first copy and paste it, and then we'll slice that one by transient. Nope. Not what I'm feeling right now, at least. That one could be interesting. I think I've used this before, maybe even on a stream, but that's fine. And then I wonder, what I was interested in is, what if I make it so that every 2 bars it will change, let's see, I want it to change the in point. I think that could be pretty interesting. Let's make it pretty dramatic. So let's see what this actually looks like. Is there a reason I never use the master clipper or compression? I guess I think I do, but I usually use it later on. And part of that is because I will sometimes try to dial in a sound and then realize that I'm fighting all of the saturation settings that I had. Like, if the amount of times I've been like, why can I not hear the mids on like this snare? Or like, why does it sound so underwater no matter what I do? And then I've learned that I just turn down the mids early on. It's an embarrassing number of times that that's happened to me. So right now I just generally do it later on. But the master compressor is always on. I've always got the gain pretty high up there. And I'm actually slightly more likely to use the extreme settings effects on the master compressor, because I find those pretty interesting. Here's the last weird thing we're going to do with this. So let's make this just a weird XY video. I mean, it already was a weird XY video, but let's make this specific to stuff that I like about the XY. So I'm going to link a few tracks here. And then I think I'll have them... Let's make them all mess with each other. So what I mean by that is I'll have the 7th track, the audio from it will duck the audio here. On the 6th track, let's make it so that the sum of the audio changes everything. And here, let's do gyroscope. Oh, I guess I should have changed the instruments before deciding the the LFOs. Bring on the resonant filters, you know? Okay. Now let's start doing some of the fun stuff. What should this actually... Ratio would be very interesting.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself...
Man, that's not quite... Let's make one of these really plucky. Maybe they should all be plucky instead. That actually is probably the way to go right now, because everything else is so drony in this.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself...
Nope, that's... I don't know if I'll be able to do that in this project. I think I may have too much going on at the moment, but maybe I could just edit. There's a lot going on right now, and I don't know if I actually need that construction thing. I think that was just me trying to throw something in there.
Something came down with a sickening... Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head.
Yeah, I actually ended up really liking this, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste that here.
Something came down with a sickening crash on the back of my head, and I felt myself... Something came down...
I haven't kissed anybody in a long...
Sorry, but I want you to...
Save all waste fats and greases, no matter how discolored. Keep a clean can in which to strain them, and take them regularly to your butcher. Remember...
Keep a clean can in which to strain them. Keep a clean can in which to strain them, and take them regularly to your butcher. Remember, for every pound, he'll give you 4 cents plus 2 extra meat points. And take them regularly to strain them, and take them regularly to your butcher. Remember, for every pound, he'll give you 4 cents plus 2 extra meat points. Murder, My Sweet was presented to the... Take them regularly. Take them regularly to your butcher. Remember... Take them regularly.
Actually, no.
Take
That's still not quite it. I don't think I've got the ones that I've got in my... Let's see if I've got it somewhere in here. If we have... Nope. It's gonna take forever. Oh, you know what? Actually...
All those bills.
There we go.
All those bills. All those due dates.
Radio ads. Such a staple.
All those bills. All those due dates. All those bills, all those due dates. All those bills, all those due dates. All those. All those bills, all those bills. All those bills.
Nope.
The anger lingered, but it was almost as if this were the climb.
My order.
This is a sample I've been looking for a bit, and I didn't realize I'd accidentally saved it in a different project. I'm going through a bit of a dark musical phase right now. In case that wasn't apparent. Is that here that I... Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I guess I could just paste it this way, too. Oops, dang it. I keep hitting copy twice. Tremolo's probably the way to go on this one. This is from a radio play, by the way. I'm not actually like sampling somebody's tragedy, for the record. Wait, what? Okay. I didn't understand that. There we go. I mean, you can record 20 seconds of samples on each key, just for the record. At some point, you'll like run out of space. You can't like put a drum kit on all 8 things and record, 20 seconds to each 24 keys and have that all load. But that you could definitely have a drum track that has 20 samples on it and have them all be like longer. It'll be different stereo and mono. Okay, that sounds way cooler without that. I mean, this project has a lot of samples already loaded to it, but yeah, I can go here and select this one, and I could just, I mean, if I so wanted to, I could, I don't know why I didn't just like start snapping or something. That'd be way cooler than that stuff. I don't know why. But then I could do the same thing over here, or I could like, load a different sample on that key, record a different one on that one, so on and so forth. There's going to be limits as to what loads when, and I actually don't know what those are. I'm more interested in playing around. I've actually been trying to use like fewer tracks and fewer samples, so I'm not really personally pushing it too far on that right now, if that makes sense. Alright, let's make sure that that only plays. Yes. This is sounding how I wanted it to. Alright. One track can have 24 20-second samples. Probably you're gonna run out of space. Like, that's especially if you're doing stereo samples. But like in a lot of my stuff right now, I've got like, actually here, let's see which one probably has, oh no, that's a bad example. Let's see. So totally changing tracks from this song about that includes a sample of somebody crying about their baby. This track, yeah, the thing is that there have been, this is also why I'm like taking a long break from beta firmware testing, is that every time things got rearranged, I would also rearrange my folders, and then I ended up with all these songs that have empty drum tracks in them, and it's kind of a bummer. Just because the samples have moved a long time ago. This will have a lot of guitar stuff in it. Let's see. What guitar? Here's... How did I do this one? Okay, each is a sampler one. I don't know if I have a good example ready. To be totally honest. Let's see. Because I started moving away from using the multi-sampler and stuff to using the sampler. Because typically if I'm going to have a really long guitar sample on something, I'm going to probably want it to, yeah, what am I doing here? So this one is just using the sampler engines, but that's just a fairly long sample of, from a microcosm. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a bad example, sorry. Anyway, what am I doing here? Let me go back to what I was just doing. Happy to answer that more in the future, though. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, or what I'm noticing is that I want this first scene to last longer, so I'll do that with the punch and effects track. And then for the next scene, I think I'll bring it down. I've created a very long intro here that leads to nothing at the moment. And the problem is that I have work in an hour, so I'm about to turn off the stream. But what would this one be? Change this back to just being the drum root kit. Actually, no, let's make sure it's one of the over-the-top drum root kits with everything like blown out with gain. Yeah, the compressor does a decent job of it. Forgot I had it absolutely cranked up, the compressor at least. I don't know. This one's so-so. I gotta start getting ready for work and stuff. And I guess I gotta do some chores around the house before that. But thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. And yeah, this was fun. Maybe at some point I'll have to like go through and see what people are asking about and make actual video responses to them. Maybe in the form of shorts. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.